Hospital, Awendo, Uriri, and finally Sbania Sub-County Hospital.
Prep champion, and I'm very lucky for being the first person to get PrEP injection in MIGORI County, and I would like to advise our fellow members who are at high risk there outside in community to come and get this injection because it is good. The PrEP that we were using lastly, some of them we are having discourages, and some of them we are having some challenges.
Now, the expansion of the road from Rironi to Mau Summit is nearing completion, prompting authorities to advise travelers using the main Nairobi-Nakuru highway to plan their journeys carefully. The ongoing construction has caused delays in some sections. Once finished, the upgraded road is expected to improve travel times and safety for commuters traveling between Nairobi and Nakuru.
Nyuma kidogo mnajua kwamba tumefungua ile barabara ya kutoka Ngong kwenda mpaka Suswa. That is a very good road. Inaweza kutoa traffic ile inaenda upande ya Narok, Kisii, Awendo ikipitia upande hiyo. Na pia iko barabara ya flyover Njambini, Olkalau, pia tuta improve hiyo barabara. Na vile sana nimesema kwa sababu tunajenga dual carriage, tutamaliza ile lane mbili, tufungulie traffic ile mbili ya upande hii ijengwe.
The positive externalities that this project will avail to the people of Kenya, the easing of transport from Nairobi to the western part of the country to Rift Valley. We're going to open up this corridor so that even all the way to Uganda, the goods that we move from the port of Mombasa to Naivasha to Kampala, Uganda, we're able to do that with.
Now, police in Kajiado town have arrested a key suspect involved in the sale of bang within the town and its neighboring areas. County Police Commander Timothy stated that officers also confiscated bang valued at 300,000 shillings, highlighting the force's ongoing efforts to curb drug trafficking in the country.
We had a crackdown as part of the RRI for hard drugs, and we are able to net bang street value 350,000, and it was retrieved from a house of the major peddler in town, because we are used to get the smaller peddlers, but yesterday we are able to get the supplier who supplies the hard drugs to the small buyers, and we were able to get 35 kilograms of bang in his house. And he also had a car Mazda Demio where we are able to retrieve 30 loads of bang. This is a breakthrough because now we have pinned down the supplier who is believed to be supplying large quantities of bang from other areas to Kajiado town.
And preparations for this year's Madaraka Day celebrations began in Wajir County. The government has assured that the stadium under construction will be completed on time. The Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, Raymond Omolo, said that the stadium will be able to accommodate up to 10,000 people while inspecting the site. This highlights the government's commitment to safety and proper organization for the larger gathering expected during Madaraka Day celebrations.
We expect that we will achieve completion or substantial completion by the first week of May of this year as we get ready for the Madaraka Day celebrations.
We'll be working together to ensure that we finish the project within the time we expected to finish. The airport is very important, and especially for that day, because we expect a lot of Kenyans to be here for Madaraka Day.
We will be working together with the two colleague PSs for the two other projects as Ministry of Defense, just to make sure that all these projects are moving together to deliver within the time that.
Now, the National Bishops Union, led by Archbishop David Gathana Munyiri, has called on the government to take action against those who have seized public land and areas under water springs. The bishop stated that the recent flood in the country are caused by land encroachment along water causes increasing risk to communities and property. Their appeal emphasized the need to protect citizens and preserve vital water sources.
Action can be very costly because one of the reasons why the water is flooding in the cities is because some people grabbed areas that were meant for waterways, and then they built their own businesses, they built their own homes, they sold those homes. Please, corruption can become very, very costly. That's why when the water comes, it sweeps people away. And we need to be very careful. Let us not tolerate corruption at any level. Anybody who grabs public facilities, places for children, for sports, waterways, needs to be dealt with very, very strongly.
Kwa hivyo ni ombi langu kama askofu kwa niaba ya maaskofu wengine kutoa tahadhari kwa wanasiasa ambao wanatumia matusi. Siasa si matusi. Siasa ni maendeleo. Siasa ni amani. Unaweza fanya siasa yako bila matusi na wewe utakuwa kiongozi, wewe ndio utakuwa kiongozi mzuri.
Amani. Kama GOA tumekuwa na hii kitego ya amani na tunapenda kila mmoja bila kuangalia kabila, bila kujua mtu ametoka wapi, tukushikana kitu moja, tukue na kuishi kwa amani.
Hivyo natoa mwito kwa mabishop wote na sana wa Glory Outreach Assembly tuweze kufanya kazi ili tuweze kusaidia watu wetu. Pahali governor yako kuwa pale kwa hiyo mkutano, pahali MC yako kuwa pale, pahali MP wako kuwa pale, usiachwe nyuma. Sababu mgao wote wa serikali ni mgao wa wananchi ambao tunahudumia. Sababu hii pia ni serikali nyingine, kanisa ni.
Now, women leaders in the Gusii region have raised concerns over violence at political meetings. Reports indicate that some youths are deliberately causing disturbances which could discourage women from participating fully in politics and pursuing leadership positions. The leaders warn that such unrest undermines efforts to increase women's presentation in political offices. They call on political parties to ensure that meetings are conducted in a safe and peaceful environment, allowing women and all participants to engage freely and confidently.
And show up and doesn't have to do 200% more than what the man does, in terms of a safe space where you are allowed to say your agenda, where the security agencies are actually upping the security. We normally experience a lot of gender-based violence, just like I've said, both physical and also verbal and emotional. We are saying for women to be able to come out, they have to be sure that the space is really safe for them to come out.
As we are moving forward, the country, as we are seeing everything, yesterday night I saw something from the governor Cecile. She was insisting, she was asking the president about that gender rule. Where are our space as women in the country of Kenya?
The meeting today has been very informative, and like our theme from rights to action, we've learned today a lot, and we are emphasizing on menstrual health, and we've been told today that the 2010 Constitution says that guarantees every girl in school to be provided for with a sanitary pad.
The key take home for me is that we are supposed to empower our families first before they are able to support women. I therefore encourage everybody to empower their children, their spouses back at home, so that when leaders come out as women, we don't look.
Now, the government of Belarus has contributed humanitarian assistance valued at around 23 million Kenyan shillings to support disaster relief in Kenya. This aid targets communities affected by heavy rains and severe flooding, which have displaced thousands of damaged homes. The support includes essential items such as shoes, clothing, tents, and other basic necessities, helping families rebuild and cope with the immediate impacts of the disaster.
I've come at a better time than now, because a lot of families have been displaced as a result of this flood, especially here in the city. and in the western part of the country, and this aid is quite needed by those vulnerable and affected families.
The humanitarian aid was delivered by the order of the President of the Republic of Belarus, His Excellency Alexander Lukashenko. We brought here tents for shelter, footwear, clothes, including stuff for kids, and we do hope that all this stuff will help people who are forced.
Now, to matters education, the Ministry of Education has warned secondary school principals against refusing to register students for the 2026 KCSE examination because of unpaid school fees. Education Cabinet Secretary Migos Ogamba said principals who demand a fee clearance before registering candidates risk facing administrative and disciplinary action. He emphasized that no student should be denied the opportunity to sit for the national examination due to financial challenges. Ogamba issued the warning while accompanying President William Ruto during a tour to Nandi County. He noted that the government is committed to removing all barriers that hinder access to education, including policies that prevent students from registering for national exams.
If we find that that has happened, we'll take serious administrative and disciplinary action against you. And I want the parents to get involved and confirm that the students who are candidates have been registered to do the examinations in 2026. Exams are paid for by the government, so no principal should fail to register a student to undertake the examinations in 2026 because they do not have school fees.
It is our commitment to all our children that no child should be left behind. We understand full well that every child must get equal opportunity to learn. And before the end of this year, we will recruit another 16,000 teachers, fulfilling our commitment to close the teacher shortage of 116,000 that we inherited.
Now allow us to take a quick short break. Don't go too far. Now, welcome back. And in business news, farmers and agricultural experts in Baringo County have raised alarm over a sharp decline in honey production, linking the problem to the increased use of harmful pesticides and environmental destruction. They are now calling for urgent conservation measures to protect bee population and restore honey production in the country. Speaking during the Karo Open Week, stakeholders noted that chemical pesticides used by farmers in the Pekere irrigation scheme are killing bees and also forcing them to abandon their hives. This has significantly affected beekeeping activities and reduced honey yields in the region. Local beekeepers also blame charcoal burning for the destruction of trees and flowering plants that bees depend on for nectar. According to them, the loss of vegetation is making it difficult for bees to survive and produce honey.
Are eaten by us. So if it can injure the bee, even us will be injured by the same. So that is a caution that we are giving to the bee farmers, that if you are within the irrigation scheme, then you need to make a choice and move your apiary away, because even the bee colony itself is prone to danger that you can lose the whole bee.
So one of the areas that we are looking at is how to come up with modern hives, where we are using the bar hives And these bar hives, you can only remove each bar at a time and return the cob as it is. And this reduces the period that honey is produced significantly.
Hii dawa watu wanapiga dawa kwa shamba, alafu nyuki akienda huko anakutana na dawa. Akikutana na dawa huko kwa shamba.
Now, a deposit-taking SACCO has reported a 4.9% increase in revenue, reaching 10.8 billion shillings for the financial year ending December 31st, 2025. The cooperative also recorded growth in total assets, which rose to 75.27 billion shillings, reflecting steady expansion in member saving and investment. Following the improved financial performance, the SACCO will pay out 5.1 billion shillings in dividends to members, translating to 16% interest on fully paid up share capital. Management says the strong results demonstrate the institution's stable financial position and continued growth within the cooperative sector.
The difficulties in the macro environment, we managed to come out very strongly, especially through investment income that has contributed more than 18% of our total income for the current year. We still do rely on our loan book, which is the interest income, which has generated about 78% of the income that we do have. It is a requirement for the commercial banks to have, by this year, last year, 2025, a minimum of 3 billion shillings in core capital. By 2026, that was to grow to 5, 2027 to 6, 2028 to 8 billion, and finally, in the year 2029, the requirement for core capital for all commercial banks was meant to be 10B. I bring this up not because we're a bank, but purely for comparative purposes, that Stima SACCO's core capital, again, is 16.5 billion shillings. So we are 5 years.
And Kenya is planning to accelerate the production of oil crops such as sunflower and soybeans in a bid to reduce the country's heavy dependence on imported edible oils. The announcement was made by Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe during the opening of Kilimo Biashara Expo 2026. The country currently consumes nearly 600,000 metric tons of edible oil every year, but more than 90% of this demand is met through imports, costing the country billions of shillings annually and exposing a major supply gap in local production. Speaking at the export, the Agriculture CS said the government will promote large-scale farming of oil crops and strengthen agro-processing to support local agribusinesses.
About 500 billion shillings. I didn't say billion, I said trillion. 500 billion shillings every year importing food, soy, wheat, rice, edible oils, all these things. And so you can imagine what that does to our balance of payments. You can imagine what it does to our balance of trade. And you can imagine what does that to our exchange rates. In the changing circumstances in the world, for example, if there is a war, we have to grow these crops ourselves. So it's not just a question of food stability, it is food sustainability, but it's also food independence. And there is a difference between all those terms. Food independence being the most important thing that we should be thinking about as a nation.
And limited digital infrastructure and fragmented payment systems are slowing financial inclusion and cross-border trade in Africa. Merchants often rely on multiple wallets and payment platforms, leading to higher transaction costs. Governments, regulators, and businesses are now being urged to collaborate in building public digital infrastructure to improve payment systems, lower fees, and expand access to financial services across the continent.
Fundamental gap between a very strong policy implementation we've seen in many of the countries that Women's World Banking works outside of Africa. Huge employment gains unlocked merely by the provision of a credit guarantee on top of a loan, but only if it really allows that lender to take advantage of the guarantee.
Creators must come with the products and services that the market requires or the consumer requires. But then that consumer must be protected by regulators, because it is the private capital that will come and build on this public infrastructure the layer of products that people require and bring the diversity. I see digital public infrastructure as the new roads, railways, and airports and ports that we had in the future as enablers of economic development.
And the Kenyan government is urging East African community countries to collaborate in fast-tracking infrastructure development in special economic zones. CESA CEO Ken Chelule said Kenya has allocated land in the Naivasha Special Economic Zone to Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan to establish dry ports and logistics hub. The move aims to enhance regional trade, improve cargo movement, and promote shared economic growth among EAC member states.
Right? You want to supply during construction or supply the raw materials for processing. We've seen avocado processors going there. There are people who are doing pharmaceuticals. There are people who are doing construction materials such as aluminium and steel. We've got people who are doing data centers. All these are opportunities open to Kenyans in the way of jobs, in the way of supplies, in the way of contract farming. There are people who are doing cereals-related products such as bakery, biscuits for exports. We also have a one-stop shop arrangement where instead of going around government offices to get the necessary support, all the government officers that need to facilitate investment
And finally, it's a wrap for EBN News at 1 p.m. Many thanks for watching. My name is LETICIA AFANDI. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.